Welcome. The show is in honor of Ahmed Salek, and it's always our pleasure and our honor to bring programs to veterans and their families and the general public as well. Before we get started, we're doing this show under the auspices of Zoom, which enables us to connect people together via computer and record it and put it together as a show. I'd like to introduce my co-host, who's been with me since the very beginning, Paul Dietrich, retired colonel. Paul, I turn the floor over to you and introduce us to your guest, please.
We're happy to be out here again, and it's been a long haul, as Ed said, about getting people together again so that we can do these shows and get them out to the veterans. Today we have a group here that's trying to help veterans, specifically here on Staten Island, and we've had a number of successes partnering with the American Legion and the Staten Island Partnership. I'd like to introduce Ashley Restaino and Mike Matthews. Ashley, can you describe for us the Staten Island Partnership and what it's all about?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me today. The Staten Island Performing Provider System is a nonprofit organization that oversees population health programs, and by that I mean, different healthcare related programs in the community. And we work with a network of partners, over 70 in the Staten Island community, to do just that. And we recently became involved in working with service members and veterans through a partnership with the New York Department of Veteran Services under the leadership of Commissioner James Hendon.
Can you tell us about some of the aims and the partnerships and the focusing on veterans?
Sure. So we came together with Commissioner Hendon and the Department of Veteran Services through some suicide prevention exercises. And some of the overall goals for us in our veterans programming are working on ways to address the increase in suicide rates among veterans, especially on Staten Island. Through these partnerships, we've learned that Staten Island has the largest concentration of veterans of all the 5 boroughs in New York City, but no direct VA hospital here. And so we wanted to work with our, strong network of partner agencies in the community to collaborate on, overall building a suicide prevention program. We're partnering with the Brooklyn VA, the Staten Island Veterans Center, the VA community clinics at South Avenue, and also the New York State VA. And as also with you, Paul, and your leadership and guidance on this project. And we're really trying to bring our network of civilian partners together, which include medical and behavioral health providers and social service agencies, to better meet the needs of Staten Island veterans and service members.
And I think it's very important. We just recently had the Commissioner for Vets for New York City on the show, and he was talking about building these kind of linkages to cover the gaps that are out there in the veterans health community. And this is just one of the ways that we're doing it here on Staten Island. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about the current activities and results?
Sure. The initial collaboration with DVS was before COVID-19, but shortly after that, COVID-19 hit and everything kind of shifted and changed. So some of the things that we've done since then is, first thing was that the department sent us masks, 1,500 masks to distribute. We took those masks, there we go, there it is, and we distributed them to our partners, our civilian partners. We also distributed them to, excuse me, the Vet Center. We distributed them to, let me see if I get everybody right, the Michael Labetti VFW post, the North Shore VFW post, the Michael Olin, Hollis, excuse me, VFW post, Granito Smith, American Legion post, and the
Marine Corps League.
Pardon?
The Marine Corps League.
Marine Corps League, yes, yeah. So that was a great way to establish some relationship with the commanders of these different posts. And the feedback we've gotten is that the veterans were very appreciative of that. Interestingly, I think it was the Marine Corps who They got some masks that were blue, and he then asked if he could switch for some black because they use them for funerals.
Yes.
So anyway, that was one of the most immediate things that we did. Then also what happened was that we were able to get some grants from the New York Community Trust Fund and from New York Health Foundation. And we were then able to kind of use these funds to get our partners involved in outreach to veterans on Staten Island. And the partners included Staten Island University Hospital, Richmond University Medical Center, Meals on Wheels, Chassis, Project Hospitality, Silver Lake Services, and Bridge Back to Life. What happened is these organizations looked at their own roster and they identified individual veterans who they had already served.
Yep.
And then did outreach, to them. And the outreach.
I would just like to add that, as Mike mentioned, especially due to COVID-19, we wanted to expand existing programs that we had at the Staten Island PPS to assess veterans for needs that were due to COVID-19 and connect them directly to services, for food delivery, housing, clothing, and assistance to other benefits and other veterans-related services.
Yes, and the other good link was connecting with me to the veteran community, because
absolutely
about somewhere around 25 to 30% of the veterans do belong to the organizations. So we were able to immediately reach those, and then through some of them and through word of mouth, we were able to get out to other veterans in the community. And you still have a good group of veterans out there that don't belong to the veteran organizations that are difficult to get in touch with, but we've been able to make some strides here in getting through to the community and letting them know about the services that are available, particularly in this time of medical crisis. So.
Yeah, and I have to mention that Paul, you have been an absolute, asset, to us, because we haven't, as an organization, we haven't had experience with the veteran population, and Paul has been instrumental teaching us about how things work, how to talk, how to learn. So I have to mention that's been an important part, and Paul has been absolutely invaluable in that sense. And to give you some sense of Ashley mentioned the outreach to identify needs. We've identified and taken care of some needs for things like primary care visits, clothing, food. There was, I think, jobs. Some domestic violence. So we were able to kind of respond, to them. I wanted to give you a couple of little examples to give you some sense of what it meant for an individual. There was a veteran who had just been discharged from the hospital he had to have a tumor removed from his kidney. This individual basically had very little money, put it that way. He also had a gambling problem. So what happened was he got connected. He was given a gift certificate to buy some clothes, and he also got referred for behavioral health treatment. So, I think it gives you one example of, on an individual basis, what this outreach had.
The other one that I remember two of them. There was one who had just lost his job. He was an older veteran, and he had lost his job and was basically going to be evicted from his house. And we were able to connect them, and there were grants and other means of, I believe he was referred for a job. So that type of thing is available through the partnership. The other one I recall was the woman who was living with her daughter in the car outside of a nursing home. Because, again, didn't have any housing. Her husband was in the nursing home, and we were able to get them referred to housing. There's a lot of different services available. Would you like to bring up your website where they?
Yes, one of the other things that we did as an organization is that on our website, we created a special area for veterans resources. And I believe we can share that with the viewers of this. And on that website, in terms of veterans services, we provide links to services for mental health, for substance use, for medical, care, for housing, for legal advice, and can also provide connections to the community clinic, the VA community clinic on Staten Island, the Vet Center, the New York State Benefits Office on Staten Island, and the Department of Veteran Services for New York City. And we started this section in June, and since then the page has been viewed 1,700 times by 730 individuals. So we're seeing that people are actually, going there and to get information. And we are constantly evolving that and developing that with other, resources. And
I just want to add that veterans, friends, family of veterans can go to our website, which is www.statenislandpps.org/veterans for more resources and other information about services that are available.
We have an American Legion Hall here on Staten Island out in Travis. Our phone number is 718-983-7675. Right now, we can't use the hall in any way because of COVID, but we can use the phone. And we've had a number of people calling in looking for help. I need help because my husband is sick. I need help because my husband lost his job. And we've been able to refer those people to the PPS to get them to assistance. So it's a good way to link. It's a good use of our assets, which are basically sitting idle now, to try to keep veterans. And it doesn't matter whether you're a member or not. We're going to try to refer you and get you your needs taken care of.
Let me interject, if I may. What you're doing is invaluable, and I spent the day with Paul yesterday, and we were talking, and one of the most frustrating things that happens is we find out after the fact. Paul and I were talking yesterday in the car. So-and-so passed away. He was a veteran. Family did not know where to go or what to do or to even reach out for anybody. And they could have reached out ahead of time, and we may have been able to render some help that would have made things easier on the family, easier on the deceased. He may still be alive today. You don't know. But there's so many times when people just simply don't know where to go. And they seem to put somewhere in their background that this individual was a veteran. He may have served in the Korean War, may have served in Vietnam, they just don't reach out to get help. And we need to get the word all over the place so it doesn't happen anymore. It's frustrating because like Paul said in the car yesterday, he says, damn, I could have done something. And we just didn't know. So getting the word out is very important. Having an organization like yours, Mike, is invaluable to us. It's just gets the word out there. They're very, very important.
Yeah, I just also wanted to mention, I think, Paul had mentioned about using the Gold Star Post number as a way to connect with the veteran services. I think one of the things that we learned as an organization, which is a civilian organization, is that it seems like there's the VA and veteran services, which are here, and then there are all the community resources, which are here, but they didn't connect. And that's what I think, really, that's what we're doing, Paul. We're developing these relationships, these connections in the Staten Island community. And I think that's really critical.
The other thing I've seen is a number of calls. My husband passed away. I don't know if I'm eligible for death benefits even. And for certain veterans, there are death benefits available through the federal government. Well, we can connect you to a service officer here on Staten Island who can help you, at least tell you yes or no, and then help you file the paperwork. All of those types of things are available if you ask for them. If you don't ask, you're not going to get the services. And very, very important that you ask. So We found most agencies are extremely responsive. The VA has been responsive.
Absolutely, yes.
You've had several instances where the podiatry clinic has reached out.
Yeah, that was another interesting example. One of our partners who was doing the outreach was discussing issues with the veteran, and he would go to the Brooklyn VA because he had to, but he wanted to know if there was podiatry services, and we were able to connect the partner and this veteran to the community clinic, which provides that. So
right here in South Avenue.
yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, it gave him a opportunity to get podiatry services on Staten Island. But secondly, it started the communication between the community clinic and this partner. And that's the kind, in the future, if a partner says, oh, a veteran needs podiatry services, now they know.
Yes,
and
they don't
vice
have to go
versa.
to Brooklyn.
That's right. That's right.
Brooklyn is an expedition from Staten Island.
Yes, right. Yeah.
What do you see coming forwards into the future?
Well, what we've been doing let me just go back and explain a little bit more about this outreach effort, because it actually has been, our partners have outreached 2,000 veterans already. And we actually, a lot of the feedback we get is that as a group, they're a very proud and independent group. So that's one interesting feedback. But we have been able to actually make connections with 2,000 of them. And in terms of some of the services, for example, one of our partners, Meals on Wheels, has veterans who receive meals. And we've actually delivered over 20,000 meals to veterans in their homes. So I just wanted to flesh that out a little bit more. But going forward, we really are developing as many components to this veteran program as we can. One of them is we've made a contact with an organization called Psych Armor. What Psych Armor does is provides online trainings in military culture. Now, this is really critical for our civilian partners because they're not aware. So
different language.
Different language. And we actually gave them a little bit of a training that you gave us some good tips, Paul, like call it a buddy check.
Yep.
But what this will do is provide these free online trainings accessible through our website to any and all of our partners, or to tell you the truth, there could be other individuals on Staten Island who want to learn more about what makes the military culture unique, and how do you speak the language of veterans. So that's one effort that we've made and will be continuing. The other one is a very, very important one, and it has to do, excuse me, with suicide prevention. I think we've mentioned that the suicide rate for veterans is significantly higher than for the civilian population, and increasing. And it seems that the group that is most vulnerable are those in the younger veterans, post 2000, 9/11. And they're vulnerable, they're most vulnerable in the year after discharge.
A transition back to civilian life.
Right. There's a program that's been developed, excuse me, by an organization called ProVetis. What the program will do is identify a veteran prior to their discharge, find out where they're going to live, and connect that veteran with a sponsor. We will be, on Staten Island, we'll be developing a list of individuals, veterans on Staten Island, that are willing to be a sponsor. And there'll be training that will be provided. But what this will really do is, what we hope it will do is identify that at-risk group, provide them the support that they need when they transition. And our hope, of course, is that will then have a big impact, decrease the rate of the suicides on Staten Island.
I've said that for years that this is a outstanding need, and in fact, until earlier this year, I was a lobbyist for the VFW in Washington, D.C. And one of our key points was that the transition from military, particularly from military that have been in combat back to civilian life, is terrible. And my analogy that I've used with a number of politicians was we do a better job with prisoners coming out of jail, because at least then you have a parole officer.
Mm-hmm.
When you come out of the military, you have no one. In my own example, I came back from 2 years in Iraq, and in 5 days I was out of Fort Bragg. I never saw a doctor, never saw a psychiatrist, never saw anybody. I was back on the streets in New York City. Mm. And there are consequences when you do that. And some of us are strong enough to be able to manage that transition. I don't know that I'm perfectly there, but hey, I still don't react well to loud noises. I can tell you that. That's something I'll probably live with the rest of my life. But it is a very stark change, especially when you're coming out of combat, to go immediately back into civilian life. It's very stark. And the transition basically is, okay, have a nice day. Mm-hmm. And I think as long as that continues, we will continue to have suicides amongst the veterans. But also, the whole military life, you always had a buddy there to check on you. Now you've got nobody. Unless you're going back to a family situation, and even that can be a difficult transition.
Mm.
Yeah, and Paul, there are also a lot of veterans who disavow any knowledge of being a veteran. You know,
Vietnam veterans are the era in really that had the worst because
Vietnam,
of the reaction ship.
But even today, you know, somebody, and the people who know are the families, and the families should be able to reach out for us if they can identify this problem. And there again, if we know about it, we can help. If we don't,
I had mentioned before that in a couple of cases, the spouses had called looking for help for the veterans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There has to be somebody that reaches out, because otherwise we'll never know.
And these are both great points and very important perspectives that you shared. And, you know, our role in this, you know, transitioning, you know, expiration term of service sponsorship program will be to gather and recruit sponsors in the community that are either veterans themselves or the spouses or family members that you're talking about, that will be able to connect to service members well enough in advance before they're actually, you know, discharged or transitioned back. And, you know, those connections will hopefully be able to be made before, you know, they're back in civilian life. And, you know, we just want to really build this network and work with these new partnerships and new members to build, you know, even a stronger network of services in order to, you know, connect and be able to, you know, bring everybody back to a, you know, a healthy lifestyle.
You know, Paul, I wanted to, in terms of your talking about that transition being so difficult, Colonel Joe Gerasi gave a presentation to us, and I tell you, he told a story that brought that home so strongly. He said that, I mean, he was in combat in Iraq, you know, saw, you know, very difficult situations. He said, and when he came back, he did sit in a therapist's office, and he said when he was sitting in that therapist's office, it was more frightening than anything he experienced in combat. And he said because he didn't have his team, he didn't have his buddies.
You're on your own.
You're on your own, and it just struck me as so powerful. And clearly he's done very well, and he's developed a program that really is tuned to the needs of this group. So.
The other thing I've seen, though, is I'm also a mentor in the court system here for the veterans courts. And what to me was startling, I've had 5 success stories. So they've gotten back into civilian life, didn't end up in prison. Prison is probably not going to help them. But 3 of those had traumatic brain injuries that weren't diagnosed until after they were in the court system, and 3 of them had PTSD. And again, not diagnosed until they're in the court systems. So the transition, we're missing these people. We're missing people that have unseen injuries, and then we're surprised when they get in trouble afterwards. So that's just from a very small group, but when you have that many that have that kind of problems and are showing that kind of problems in the civilian world, you have to really worry about what we're doing. We're all going to pay for that in the future in society.
Paul, I just wanted to mention one other initiative that we're involved in, and that is there's a suicide screening tool. It's called the Columbia SSRS, and we are trying to develop and use that in with our partners. And essentially, it's a 6-item questionnaire. You can ask 6 questions and really be able to decide if someone is at risk. And it's been very well studied, it's very effective, and it can be used by health professionals, it can be used by the police, it can be used by individuals, and it's actually a very useful tool. And we are also looking, we want to add that to our general veterans program, although it's useful beyond the veterans population. So that's another component, another piece that we want to build into our veterans program.
The other thing I want to point out is that I belong to 3 veterans organizations. I belong to the Veterans of Foreign Wars. That's for veterans who served within a combat zone. I belong to the Legion, which is a group that basically this country has been at war since December 7th, 1941. One type or another for those veterans. And then I also belong to the Korean War veterans because I served for, I think it was 90 some days in South Korea. But the thing I'm trying to point out is that those organizations exist because there at least you have another veteran you can talk to. And that's one of the big reasons for joining. Ashley, going forward, what do you think with the PPS?
So the Staten Island PPS is definitely committed to making veterans programming part of our larger community health plan. With our future state, we're certainly not experts, and so we are definitely continuing our partnerships with Commissioner Hendon and DVS, you, Paul, and Ed, and the other veteran services organizations on Staten Island, and any other new partners. Really on just making better health, outcomes and suicide prevention for veterans and service members a priority in Staten Island. And I just want to say thank you, Paul, Ed, all the other veterans and service members right now for your service.
Thank you.
Which is important here is the service that you're bringing to the veteran is invaluable. And anything that'll help a veteran, we want to hear about.
If you need some type of service, you're a veteran, veteran's family, you can call the American Legion at 718-983-7675. And other numbers and other contact information will be in the credits.
Thank you for watching in honor of. We love you for watching. Paul, Mike, thank you very much. Ashley, thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Okay. You just keep watching. God bless you.